Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for attending the VBCC monthly webinar series highlighting Sage Alerts and Workflow. My name is Kelly Bergman, and I would like to quickly address a few housekeeping items before I hand the floor over to our presenter. As you just heard, everybody's in listen-only mode. If you have any questions, please feel free to enter them into the chat section and we'll answer them all at the end. Also, this webinar is being recorded and will be posted on our website and our YouTube channel within the next day or so. Now, with that done, it is my pleasure to introduce you all to Dana Halpin, our resident expert on Sage Alerts and Workflow and one of our very talented consulting managers. Dana has over 15 years of experience as a consultant and takes pride in becoming an expert in the many add-on modules Sage offers. With that said, Dana, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for attending our Sage Alerts and Workflow webinar today. I'm very excited to show you this amazing solution that will undoubtedly enhance your business. Whether you're a current Alerts and Workflow user or looking to possibly implement, this webinar intends on educating you on the solution to get you thinking on how it could fit into your organization. Sage Alerts and Workflow is a business monitoring for your Sage 100 ERP. It takes time-sensitive data and delivers to recipients of your choice inside or outside your organization. In addition, it can also take action on data and write back to your ERP. There are many ways the industry describes alerts and workflow, like it's a smoke detector for your system. The one I like most is it's like hiring an invisible system, an invisible assistant. Think if you have an empty desk next to you that secretly is working overtime. Let Sage Alerts be the eyes and back of your head. Currently, you may be buried under information overload and thus have to decide what to do with all that data. You may spend countless hours retrieving, analyzing, distributing. Sage Alerts will change this scenario to upgrade you to a data-driven organization. A data-driven organization enables you to use the right data at the right time and helps foster conclusive decision-making, leaving you with a competitive advantage. How many times in your daily business activities have you said, if we only had known, if we only had known gross profit dropped, vendors increased their product costs, customers aren't paying, customers aren't buying, there are stock surpluses and shortages, our employee and performance reviews are due, no one approved a PO, production is behind schedule, a price list was outdated, work tickets are over budget. Sage Alerts and Workflow reverses the flow. Data automatically comes to you based on what business conditions are important to you. Sage Alerts and Workflow gives your data a voice. It sweeps through your entire ERP and looks for relevant business conditions. It notifies people about these conditions. It can include crystal reports and forms. And lastly, it can update info in your Sage 100 ERP. And just a note, when I refer to your Sage 100 ERP, I mean all modules. Sage Alerts monitors any module you have and can also integrate with other Sage applications like Sage CRM and Sage HRMS. So how does it work? The first step, to determine what's important to you. For example, maybe you want to be alerted on how many invoices are past due. The second step, decide when you'd like to be alerted. You can set up schedules to run automatically. Third step, do you want to include any forms of reports? Like I mentioned before, these are all crystal based. Next, decide who your recipients are. Are they inside or outside your organization? Salesforce, customers, finance, etc. Then decide how you'd like to deliver the alerts. Some choices are email, instant message, dashboards, text messages. Lastly, do you want to take action and update your Sage ERP? Maybe the result requires a change in a customer record. Sage Alerts and Workflow can automatically make this change for you. In addition to the base product, there are add-on modules you can purchase. One is the reports module. You can have scheduled reports. Every Friday at 5 o'clock, you can send a bundle of reports. You can have triggered reports. Based on your criteria that you include a report with the alert. Perhaps you have invoices or statements that you want to send. That is a document delivery. You can do it on the first of the month. You can say any new orders that have come through the system today, I want to be alerted. I want a copy of that order. You can have graphic alerts. You can have reports on demand via email. This requires another connection, but you can send alerts and workflow requests. Say, hey, I want this report today, and they will automatically send it to you. Another add-on module is the Workflow Actions module. The Actions module updates your applications automatically. Schedule a follow-up call after an order is placed. Copy order details from your ERP to your CRM. Approve a PO. Reassign a task. Update an account with incoming mail details. Put a client on hold. We talked a little bit about deliverables, but here's a recap on the choices that you have. You can do a web dashboard. You can do email, fax, instant message, a text message, FTP. You could send a tweet, which I have yet to see, but that sounds pretty cool. We have all these available to you with Sage Alerts and Workflow. Now, let's get into the demo of the product. So, Sage Alerts is installed and downloaded from the web. You're provided with a license code that enables you to install and run the alerts and workflow on a single name server. Right now, I'm logged into our server. I have a program group here with 5 icons. Those all were installed with the Sage Alerts and Workflow product. Your license code stores how many connections you purchased based on the number of databases being monitored. Each database to be monitored counts as a connection. So if you're in your Sage 100 program, you have 4 companies, and you want to monitor those 4, you need a 4 connection license. Let's talk about the type of server that you need and where. You don't need a dedicated server. You can put Sage 100, or you can put Sage Alerts and Workflow on the same server as Sage 100, on an Exchange server, on a SQL Server box, or you can even run it on a workstation. My install right here is actually on the same server as my Sage 100 install, and then I also have my Sage Alerts and Workflow linked to another Sage 100 install on another server. So I have it set up both ways. As far as resources go, Sage Alerts and Workflow uses minimal system resources unless you're doing hundreds of every minute queries, which I have yet to see, that perform complex or time-consuming calculations. More resources are required if you're using Sage 100 Standard, which is the Providex database. In that case, it's advised that Sage Alerts be installed on its own server or a virtual server, but not required. We do have plenty of clients that install on the same Sage 100 server, and we certainly can send system requirements to make sure you have enough space. One last note, program is run as a Windows service. In this program group, there's what we call the desktop service. When you have problems in your troubleshooting, what we recommend is you shut down the Windows service and you run it as a desktop service to be able to troubleshoot. Now let's go over the modules that are installed. The first one I want to talk about is the Administrator module. This is where you can check your server status, set up hardware and software. This is where you set up your email. So server status. This is how you know, is your server shut down? Is it running? We have all these different servers that come with the program. The scheduler schedules events, alerts, reports, and workflow. Your application event. This server executes the actual event. You have your email server, which delivers email messages. A paging server, a fax server, a copy server for FTP, a report server to generate those crystal reports and forms and documents. You have a webcast server for dashboards, and then your instant message for instant message alerts. Then under software setup, this is where you set up your email accounts. You can have multiple email accounts in here that you want to send alerts from. Maybe the Salesforce has an email that's different from finance. You can set that all up here. If I want to set up a new email account, I can have these nice defaults down here. If I have Microsoft Exchange, I just pull this in here and it fills in the defaults, and then you fill in your information. It makes it quick and easy to set up your email. We strongly recommend that you use the type internet. See the drop down here? With Exchange, if the Exchange server is configured for SMTP and POP3, you gain ease of use and greater functionality, including the ability to send HTML formatted emails if the Exchange server is configured for SMTP. Next module I want to talk about is the monitor module. In the monitor module, you can see what's being checked, sent, pending, errors, and error codes that help you troubleshoot. So for example, I was playing around with this today to help set up for the webinar. So if you come in here under email delivery and you click on send today, you can see all the emails that were sent today. Sent yesterday, sent all time. You can see the errors today, yesterday, all time. You can see what's pending. When I was setting this up, I did have to troubleshoot some issues. My emails were being in pending status and they weren't being delivered. I could actually see that in here. It shows up. The errors are great because you can look in here and see the error message. Sage Alerts and Workflow has an amazing support team where they have documented all types of errors and how to troubleshoot. It's really the easiest product that I've ever had to support due to that. So, in addition to the email tree, you have all those options for your other means of delivery, your dashboards, what's pending, what's been sent, report generations, what crystal reports have been generated today, yesterday, and if they've been sent or not. So that is the monitor. Let's X out of here. The next one is the event manager, which I believe I already have open. A lot of times, before we make a sale, users want to know, how does this even connect to my Sage 100 program? Well, it's all done through ODBC data connection, which is right here. You have to set up a system DSN for your Sage 100 ERP. If you're using Sage 100 Standard, you set up the ODBC Mass 90 driver. If you're using Premium, you just set up the SQL server and link it to the database, company database that you're using. Now you'll notice I have for 2017 my driver and then a link. So this is my ProvideX Sage 100 Standard install. I have to set up a link because Sage Alerts takes all of those ProvideX tables, converts them to an Access database, and this link actually links to that database that it creates. Sage Alerts has what they call a KLF linking function. In here, you take your ODBC data source and it pulls it for your ProvideX Sage 100 Standard. It pulls in all of the tables from Sage 100 and it links them to an Access database, which has this file specification up here, MDB. So, just to recap, we can link to any type of Sage 100 program, whether it's standard, premium, advanced. Then we go into the event manager and we tell the event manager where these links are located, and that is how Sage Alerts knows how to go into that database to create your business conditions. So they're called application events, and I have various application events in here because I'm always demoing or testing, and I have various different installs of Sage 100, various different versions. But to set yours up, you would only pretty much need one. And if I go into one that I already have set up, this one's a SQL one, and I go into edit connection, you can see that you set up your application event, you point it to that data source that you just created, whether it be the SQL database or that linked access database. This is how it knows where to go to grab the information. So now that you have your application event, what is in the event? Well, you have queries. These are all your business conditions that you set up. You have events. These are how you're going to deliver those business conditions and when. You have reports. Maybe you want to include a crystal report attached to an alert. You have scheduled reports. This is if you want to do like a bulk up 5 reports and send them on a Friday night. And you have scripts. You have back-end or front-end scripting functions in here. So let's move it back up to queries. These are those business conditions that we talked about in the PowerPoint. I want to know when an invoice is overdue. I want to know when a PO is required, is past the required date for a particular manufacturing job. This is where you set that up. So let me set one up for you real quick so you can get an idea of how easy this is. In the query, you give it a name. Just call it a test WebEx. Then you go into the tables. Now this would not populate if you didn't have the linking function set up properly. So here are all my Sage 100 tables. Let's just say I do want to do a past due invoice type of alert. So I would go into the AR open invoice. This is all alphabetical. So we're going to go into AR open invoice, which is right here. Grab that. And keep in mind that you can grab more than one, of course, and link it on the next tab. The linking is just like crystal reports. If you have designed any crystal reports or forms, you are ahead of the game. You will know exactly what tables to use and how to link them. But if you don't worry, it's very easy. Columns. What do I want to include on the alert? What do I want to know? These are all the data fields that will appear and be available to code into the email. So usually you want to know the balance, and the order that I'm adding them in here does not matter. So don't think that you have to add them into the order that you want it to appear in a table in the email. This is really just adding them to the data that the alert looks at. So we want customer number probably. We'll do invoice number, invoice date. And then, let's see. I do want to mention that you can do calculated columns to a query. We have a balance field in here, but perhaps that wasn't available. You can do a calculated field to calculate the non-taxable amount plus the taxable amount to get the balance. So you just grab your fields and you add them together and you're able to do calculated fields. Another way or reason a calculated field is helpful is when we pick a unique column. A unique column is when the system, Sage Alerts and Workflow goes out and it tells you what information has been triggered. So say I have a bunch of information triggered today. Tomorrow that same alert goes out and it's going to see, oh, that invoice was triggered yesterday. I'm not going to trigger it today. So that is where the unique column comes into play. If you don't identify a unique column, the record will trigger repeatedly, day after day, each time. So in certain cases, you may want that so that it repeats the information. If you are emailing customers past due invoices today, and then you want to remind them again next week, you want those invoices to appear on both of those emails. So in that case, it really doesn't matter if you set up a unique column. But to be creative, you can add a unique column for other types of alerts by doing perhaps the customer number plus the invoice number, because there may be times when the invoice number is used in your system more than once for different customers. You know, if you're not chronologically assigning invoice numbers, that may be the case. So this is when you do some sort of calculation for the unique field, and I'm just going to check this box here. And you could rename columns here. That's my balance that I calculated. So the next tab is if you wanted to sort the information in a specific way. Filters, this is used a ton. Filters are if you wanted to pull out data from a data set. Well, in my case, I want to pull past due invoices. So I would pull the invoice date, and I would say, or actually that's not right, if I wanted to pull the invoice due date, which is this guy, and I wanted to say it is less than today's date. So I just go in here, I pull in the current date, and then that'll pull my data set, which will only be past due invoices. So in order to make sure everything's working properly, hit the preview tab, and it should populate the data. So I see here I have balances of 0 in my open invoice file, so that might be a filter you want to add. Don't include the ones that are 0. You might want to exclude credits, so you could say I only want balances that are greater than 0. There's all sorts of things you can filter on, but my data set's pretty old, so all my invoices are past due, but this is just so you get the gist of how it works. So I'm not going to save this because I already have one formatted for you guys, but oh, I already did, so that's okay. So my query here is the one that I set up for you guys to test today is the AR past due. Let's go to the event. Query is set up, ready to set up an event to say this is who I want to send it to, this is how I want to send it, and this is when. That's what an event does. So I have an AR past due 10 days. My query is actually taking the invoice due date plus 10 days, and that is my data set. So I want everybody to know, okay, your invoice was due this date, but is now 10 days past that date. That's when I want to alert them. In an event, you click on the Queries tab and you link it. So I'm linking it to my AR past due query. If I wanted to attach crystal reports, I would do it here. If I wanted to attach files like logos, I can do it here. Let's go over to my email tab. And this is where you set up the actual template for your email. This is in plain text, but you do have the option to set up HTML emails. The email account to send from, here's a drop down. I only have one, but like I mentioned before, you can have multiple. You give it a subject, you open it with this is an internal notice to let you know all these invoices are past due. In my case, I set this up to email an accounts receivable clerk to let them know that these invoices are past due. But you could set this up to email each customer based on their email address a listing of just their emails that are past due. So in here we have different fields that you can use, and these fields come from your query. So up here are all my query fields. So I'm just dropping them into the email. You can use these nice functions, begin, repeat, end, repeat, to be able to get a nice table going, repeating it for however the grouping that you want it for. Who do I want to send this to? On the subscribers tab, you can set up subscribers. And I am set up as a subscriber on the help desk. You can have all these different categories and organize them nicely based on your departments. You can have different people underneath each one. I don't really have anything set up, but I just want to show you can do that. Then, if you wanted to, like I mentioned before, send this past due invoice email to your customers, you would go to the Advanced tab. You would say over here, I want to group this alert based on the customer. And then down here you would say, I want to email that customer based on their email address, which is right here. This email address is coming from the customer record on in Sage 100 customer maintenance. There's an email address for that customer, and that's where it's coming from. So you got to make sure that your data has integrity. Do you have a bunch of customers that don't have email addresses in there? This is a way to figure out, what you need to clean up in there in order to get the system to work for you the way you want it. When do I want to send this? Over here, there's a schedule tab. They have a nice drop down in here, and they've already set up all these different kinds of schedules for you every day, every minute, every hour, every week, every month. Each of these schedules you can copy and edit for you. I did some yesterday for somebody that wanted some at 1:30 in the morning, which obviously wasn't a standard choice, but all I did was copy this and edit the time. So I don't have a schedule set up for myself here because it's just a demo data. But what I want to show you now is how the email comes over and how it looks. So remember, this is a plain text email. I'm going to schedule it now to generate it for you. And I have my email open on the web here, so we're going to take a look at that. So keep in mind, this is a plain text email. And this is the way it comes over. This is my heading. These are all my invoices that are overdue. And then I have my signature on here. Pretty straightforward. Now let's look at the same type of email, or same type of alert, but in HTML format. If I open up the event and I go to the email tab, I have my begin HTML, and at the end I have my end HTML. And in between I have all the HTML coding that is going to bring this email into a nice table format, easier to read, colorful, all that good stuff. I even want to include my Vrakas logo at the bottom. So I've attached a file. And when you attach files like this or reports, you have to make sure that it's in the specific path provided by Knowledge Sync. So if I go up here and I go into my Docs folder, this is where all my files are that I want to attach. If it's not in that location, it's not going to show up on the email. So let's get out of here and run this one. You can see what an HTML alert looks like. It's a little easier on the eye. A nice green table says this is the invoices that are overdue. And then if I jump down here, I have my nice logo. I could click on the hyperlink to get to my website. And that's it. Now I want to demonstrate to you a alert that has a report attached to it. So I'm going to jump over to my other application, and I have the same alert, which is a past due, 10 days, but I'm attaching invoice copies. So in addition to that email, it's going to have an attachment in a PDF with the invoice copies. A lot of times when we get people started on this program, they're like, well, I want to attach an invoice. And, when we talk about what's involved, they don't understand that the invoice form that they're using has to be rewritten. And that is because in your Sage 100 program, it's all work temporary tables. So we have to convert that over to what we call a report. Actually, it's a permanent report. So it takes a little bit, but it's easy to do. We convert all your forms to reports, and we have them look just like they do when they're coming on a Sage. So in addition to that, we can tell the Sage Alerts program what output style you want it in. I think the only one I've ever really used is PDF. Nobody has any need for those other ones yet. Then down here, when you're doing this for your customers, for example, think about the report that you just created. Well, it's for all customers. So you need a parameter on there saying, well, make sure to send this report based on the customer in the alert. So there's going to be on the Crystal report a parameter, and it's going to have a question saying customer, and then the answer here would be linking to the customer field on your query. So let's see what the alert with the PDF attached looks like. The email section really hasn't changed. But down here, I just want to note that if you check this box, it includes the reports as email attachments. If it's not checked, even when I send that, the PDF would not be attached. So you do have to make sure that is sent. So let's get this going. This is the example of HTML with a report attached. Now keep in mind, all my invoices are overdue, so this is kind of a big report, and I'm doing all customers, but you can, obviously filter this to be just your customers. So, oh, did I not get it yet? Here it is. So here's my PDF. If I open it up, this is my invoice form, and since it's a report, there's multiple pages on it if I have more than one invoice that's overdue. Here's my logo, here's my report, here's my first invoice that's overdue, second page, second invoice, and so on and so forth. So that is how you attach a report to your alerts. Now let's talk about different business conditions that you can do this for. A lot of you have the manufacturing module job ops, and there's a lot of different ways that you can bring information into an alert from the manufacturing module. There are so many conditions that we can write alerts on that are important to your business. One of them that came as a request was, are my POs that are linked to work tickets past the required date? So I did a query here, and it's just pulling from the purchase order tables. Which has the work ticket information on it, and then the AP vendor table. And then here's my links that we talked about. You can do just like Crystal, inner joins, left outer joins, bringing in all my columns. What kind of calculated columns do I have on here? Well, if you use manufacturing, you know that you usually have to represent the work ticket number as sales order dash work ticket number dash step, so you can do a calculated column for that. Sorting, filtering. I don't want any purchase orders that have been deleted. If I preview the information, I have a very small database, but in here I have all the purchase orders that are past the required date. And in here, there's a lot of information that I pulled in. If you wanted to, you can use it. If not, you don't have to include it on the alert. I included the vendor contact information because really the purpose of somebody getting this is to contact the vendor and say, hey, where's my stuff? So if I go to the events and I go to the work ticket POs overdue, and I look at the email, it's an HTML email, and I'm sending it to myself. I'm going to send it right now so you can see what it looks like. And while that's thinking, if I go into the monitor here, you can see, oh, what's holding it up? What is it? Is there something, error message or something that's holding up this process? And we can see exactly what's going on. So I still haven't gotten it yet. And let's see, email delivery. Is there anything pending? No. Sent today. So you know what? I didn't even hit the send button. I don't think. So I have to schedule this now. Say yes. Say okay. But that's an example of how you would use the monitor. Why didn't it send? Well, nobody hit the send button. So here it is. I got it going in there a couple times, so maybe I did hit the send button. But nevertheless, this is what it looks like. It's going to be HTML format. Think about if you are in charge of this sort of thing. You just go in here and you can see all the different items that are not being received by the date that you need it for these particular work tickets. Well, you're going to need to call Joe Smith, you need to call Ray, you need to get this going. So it's nice to be able to get this stuff in your email inbox rather than run a report. I mean, there are reports in Sage. There's this open purchase order report by work ticket. You know, you can customize it, but you're the one who's going to have to run it. Why not have it all come to you? Okay, so there is another one I wanted to show you. As far as work ticket statuses go, wouldn't it be nice to have an alert come to you to show you the different statuses and where they are? Sometimes people change the work ticket status and you want to know when, you want to know why. So you can create a query that does that. On the filter, I have the status code is equal to a question mark. This is a parameter. The reason why it's a parameter is because wouldn't it be nice to use this query over and over again? I can create an alert that I can create an event for new statuses, rework statuses, and I can have multiple events for the same query. So that is why we use parameters sometimes. So when I preview, you'll see the parameter comes up. Well, do you want to look at this data for statuses that are on hold, new, purchase orders, repair, rework? I think I have a lot of new in here, even though it's an old database, but this is, how it pulls. So now when I go into my event, I happen to have a work ticket status change event for rework right now, which is my query. And here's that parameter that I was talking about down here, similar from the reports. You can say the status is rework, and then it'll only email those rework work tickets. It'll tell you when they were reworked and why. I can copy this event to another event, and I could code it to be all the new ones. I can have those two events sent to two different people, and you're ahead of the game. You're reversing the data flow. So that is pretty much it for the event manager. How queries work, how reports work, events, all that good stuff, subscribers. I do want to mention a little bit about what you see down here. These are called event packs, but I'm going to get to that in just a second. There is one last module that I'd like to show you, and it's called the it's called the Navigator, which is right here. So when you click on the Navigator, it's kind of like looking at everything all at once. And I didn't go here right away because I think it's kind of confusing when you have a lot of application events in here, which I do because we're constantly testing and demoing. But for you guys, you're not going to have as many as I do. So you're not going to have as many trees to look at. So for example, the one we were just on, this is a graphical tool that you can see everything all at once. And if I wanted to create a query, all I do is right click on it and I say new, and it'll bring me to the event manager. Same thing with events, reports, all that good stuff. So you can do everything from here. It's a really cool tool. if I wanted to see the past due query, I can right click on it and go right there. What else is in here? The scheduled events is a great one to open up here. What do you have scheduled and when? I don't really have much scheduled, but I do have stuff for ABC in here. And I have, kind of ridiculous, but I do have one that's set up every 5 minutes, but that's because I wanted to test it I was in troubleshooting mode and I wanted to test it a lot. But this will list all of your schedules that you have set up. This will list what's in progress. And if you have anything in progress right now, which we don't, it'll list the exceptions, which are the errors. So basically, it's like looking at the event manager and the monitor all at once. And then down here you have your subscribers. It's kind of crazy looking because I have all these open, but if you wanted to look at your subscribers in one big graphical way, you can do that. And if I wanted to add to it, you right click, you can add, you can edit, and all that good stuff. So that's the Navigator. I go there last because you really can't understand it unless you know what all the other tools mean. So let's see. Last thing I want to talk about is the event packs. So this is pretty awesome. Sage Alerts makes available to you event packs at no cost. They're pre-configured conditions of the alerts and workflow program based on your ERP. So anything that says Sage 100 in here, that came from Sage Alerts. One of them, let's look at the job ops one because that one's really cool. They have a lot of different queries that they already have pre-configured for you. All you have to do is copy the query up into your application event, change a few things, and you're good to go. So look at all these. I mean, it's just amazing. And you know what else is really cool about this is if you're creating a query from scratch and you can't really figure out, oh, I don't really know how to filter or do this a certain way, open up a pre-configured one, see how they did it. Maybe it'll help you. So when you download the program, these event packs are available on that download confirmation page on the Alerts and Workflow website. And I believe last time I heard they had over 70 event packs, so it is pretty cool. So with that, let's go back here and see if you guys have any questions, and be happy to answer them. Get that PowerPoint going again. And if you can't think of any today, we certainly are available to take any over the phone or email. So just enter in any questions that you may have in the chat window. Somebody asked what is the cost, and I would have to defer that over to Kelly. We can send information to the group as far as pricing goes and so forth. I'd be happy to do that. A lot of times they have different promotions. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Kelly.
No, I'll be happy. There's a couple different ways you can purchase it and depending on what you need. So I'll be more than happy to throw that into our follow-up email.
Great. I'll just give another second here or so. Any other questions? Can't say enough about this product though. I mean, you can really know things before they happen. It's a great way to monitor your system, know what's going on. It really gives your employees to do their job 10 times as well.
Well, if there are no other questions, I think we'll wrap it up here and let you all get back to your day. I just would like to let you all know that the creators of Alerts and Workflow Knowledge Sync is actually going to be at our user conference on October 23rd this year. So if you haven't registered for that, visit our website. It's right on the homepage, and there's also a link in the I believe under the resources tab, there's a link to the 2019 user conference agenda, should be coming out later this week. So that's great news. So if you'd like to come and see them, that'd be great. Otherwise, if there are no other questions, we would like to thank you all for joining us. Dana, thank you so much for taking time out of your day. It was great.
Thank you,
And
Kelly.
we wish you all a happy afternoon. Thanks so much for attending.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.